Milky Magic 1, Milky Magic 2.
So many fantastic things to do.
Milky Magic 3, Milky Magic 4.
Dancing, craft time, and so much more.
Milky Magic 5, Milky Magic 6.
Friends and fun, the perfect mix.
Milky Magic 7, Milky Magic 8.
Dip and dunk sure make it great.
Milky Magic 9, Milky Magic 10.
We can't wait to come back again.
The Dairy Milky Magic Day Camp.
Hi everyone! Can you believe this is our last week at Dairy Milky Magic Day Camp? I had so much fun with you guys and I hope you did too. Our last story is really a magnificent one. So good job for all of you who guessed correctly. In this week's story, we're going to learn all about the magnificent mansions around Queen's Park, Savannah. Have you ever visited any of them? I know Dip and Dunk had a fantastic time at Milky, so let's get started! The most magnificent. Achoo! Miss Milky sneezed away cobwebs from her sleepy shutters. A kite woke her up as it sailed back and forth, tickling her grey, aging balcony. She thought she heard children talking. Ah, yes, she glimpsed them across the street on Queen's Park, Savannah. A little boy whispered to the others, "I wonder if they're even alive." "Maybe," one of the boys shrugged. "Maybe they're taking a nap." The little girl screamed out, "Excuse me, are you asleep?" Miss Milky stirred gently, trying to hide that she had dozed off. No, I was, just resting my shutters." She raised her roof, trying to get the attention of the other houses. Professor Curacy, a stern gentleman at the end, was grumbling, trying to restart the stopped clock at his tower. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Next door, Lady Hayes Court was trying to shake off the dried leaves that were piled onto her roof. Rustle, rustle. Through the trees, she could hear Dr. Rumor, who was fast asleep, rattling her heavy iron balcony with noises. Rusty noises. The Archbishop was groaning and stretching, showing off his dramatic arches. Over the fence, Minister Whitehall was trying to keep her windows closed as a gust of breeze blew through her coral corridors. Whoosh! Whoosh! On the furthest end, Sir Stormire was making a commotion, trying to find where he had put the keys to his front door. Clang, clang. The boy shrugged. "See, I told you. My daddy said these old buildings no longer have stories to tell." The girl interrupted. "Well, my mommy said they are an important part of our history. I'm just not too sure what that means," she added thoughtfully. "Sorry, children, the hearing's not good as it used to be," Milky apologized. "First, you must understand that we are known as the Magnificent Seven. And yes, we've been around for over 100 years. Trinidad and Tobago was really different back then. There were few motor cars. We had tram cars instead, and people could ride them all the way around the savannah, and it only cost 2 cents. Visitors came from all over the country to take a ride, while the police band played songs in front of Minister Whitehall," she explained. The others finally perked up, creaking and groaning a little, shaking off of their dusty walls. Feeling really pleased with herself, Miss Milky spun the statue on her fountain. "I was a gift from a wife to her husband. There was many gatherings in my garden and in my grand rooms. Important people brought joy to everyone outside and inside my walls." The children listened intently. Miss Milky continued, "And naturally, as the most magnificent, I beg your pardon," Dr. Rumor objected. The other houses glared at her. "You? What makes you think that you are the most magnificent?" Silence filled the street. Everyone looked at Miss Milky, waiting on her answer. The proud lady paused for a moment. Well, I definitely think the oldest is the most magnificent. Lady Hayes Court huffed her hedges. Well, I was built in 1908. Miss Milky smiled proudly. As I was saying, I was built way back in 1904. Minister Whitehall and Dr. Rumor interrupted loudly. We were built in 1904. 1903 here, called out the Archbishop. Professor Curacy chimed his bell to demand attention. You're all certainly not the oldest. I was built in 1902. Sir Stormare shouted. If age makes a difference, then you need to know I'm older than the professor. Even though I was finished in 1904, they began building me in 1902 as well. One of the boys asked, so is it your age that makes you the most magnificent? I don't think that's quite right. Miss Milky suddenly felt embarrassed, realizing that she's not the oldest. Age probably has less to do with it, she whispered. Sir Stormare interrupted, gathering his solid structure. I dare say. Well, if it's about impressive structure, then I should be considered the only choice. Dr. Rumor rattled her decorative worn iron. They call me the cast iron mansion. Look at my railings, gates, stairs, balconies, towers, roof, and windows. I'm decorated all fancy, just like a movie star. Lady Hayes Court examined her ordinary, sturdy build. She added softly, well, I quite like my neat, simple lines. There's a merit in modesty. Minister Whitehall raised a thoughtful voice. I think she's right. Simplicity is beautiful. Look at me with my one color and stunning white coral walls. The Archbishop coughed in displeasure. How could you say simple is better? Look at my grand, colorful arches and tall tower. To be accurate, Professor Curacy corrected, I also have an impressive tower, and it even has a clock. Ding dong! Confused, the boy asked. So, is it how you look that makes you the most magnificent? Miss Milky was now worried that they might be teaching the children improper values. Before she could help straighten out this mess, Dr. Rumor cleared her columns. Knock, 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 knock. Well, I believe it's the people who live in us that make us magnificent. Important families have always lived in me. One even built the first movie theaters in our country, she said. Miss Milky whistled. My people built important buildings too. One of my families built the largest general store in the city of Port of Spain at the time. It was 3 stories high and had 15 different apartments. Whoa, the girl said excitedly. That's important. So, is it the families that live in you that makes you the most magnificent? Lady Hayes Court chimed in. I was named after Bishop Thomas Hayes, and I've been home to the Anglican bishops since I was built. They were responsible for building schools and churches and have helped many people over the country. The Archbishop scrunched his arches. Yes, I believe a home to charitable people who help the community matters too. I kept Father Boucher safe in my tower when he had leprosy. He built 2 schools and a church in St. James and translated the Catechism Manual from English to Chinese and Hindi. Whoa, the boy whispered. Is charity work something that makes you the most magnificent? Sir Stormare tipped his roof. This argument doesn't hold water. I've been home to the important people during the Second World War. I was occupied by the U.S. Forces Air Raid Precaution. There's nothing more magnificent than to protect and serve. The war? The weary children asked. Soldiers are definitely important. Does protecting us during the war make you the most magnificent? I dare say that education is the most magnificent of all, shouted Professor Curacy. I have been educating our nation's children since 1902. Many talented students walked in my halls. Artists like Peter Minshall, Bosco Holder, and Nobel Prize winner Sir V.S. Naipaul. Exceptional athletes like cricketer Derek Murray and Olympic medalist Wendell Mutley trained on my grounds. I've even taught former presidents George Maxwell Richards and our first Prime Minister, Dr. Eric Williams. Well, that settles it then, stated Minister Whitehall admittedly. I was the headquarters of the U.S. military during the Second World War. Professor Curacy, you may have taught the first Prime Minister, but I was chosen for the office. Shouting erupted as the buildings all started arguing at this suggestion, each boasting, trying to prove their magnificent worth. Oh dear, what have I done? Miss Milford bowed her balcony. Professor Curacy, I did not know so many impressive students walked in your halls, Miss Milford whispered. Professor Curacy chimed his bell in gratitude. He looked over his wall. Lady Hayes Court, I've always thought your unusual roof added beauty to your simple lines. The others thrummed their steps in agreement. Lady Hayes Court's railing turned rosy as she blushed. Dr. Rumor, your family that built movie theaters? It's amazing that they lived in you for so many decades, she exclaimed. The others bounced their balconies in agreement. Dr. Rumor grinned as she turned to her neighbor. It has been my pleasure to be their home, Minister Whitehall. I did not know that you were such a hostess to 5 prime ministers. The others tapped their tiles in agreement. Minister Whitehall curtsied in recognition. She nodded towards the Archbishop. Did you really care for Father Boucher? That was so kind of you. The others shook their shutters in agreement. The Archbishop raised arches in appreciation. He said to Sir Stormire, none of us might have served the Second World War if it wasn't for you. The others winked their windows in agreement. Sir Stormire tipped his tower. Finally, to Miss Milford, he said, well, I didn't know you were a gift from a wife to a husband. That's very romantic. Miss Milford fluttered her fountain at the compliment. Hip hip hooray! The other houses cheered in agreement and clapped their doors wildly. The 3 children jumped in delight. You know, children, we've watched the city grow up around us and so much has changed. Sometimes we do feel a bit forgotten. Miss Milford looked up and down the street, her glass windows twinkling with pride. When you've been around us long as us, you tend to forget the good memories. Thank you so much for helping us to remember the lives that we touched. Together, all 7 houses shouted happily at once, and that each of us is magnificent in our own way. The end. Now I know why Dip and Dunk had so much fun exploring that magnificent mansion. Based on the story, do you have a favorite one? Tell us in the comments. Today we're going to make our own magnificent mansion. I'm going to call mine Princess Rayanne's Palace. So when you make yours and send your pics, don't forget to tell us what it's called. Today we'll be making a magnificent mansion. I already created mine, but I'm going to show you how to create your own. So, these are the supplies you'll need. A scissors, a marker, a cap. I'll show you what we're going to do with this. Liquid glue or any type of heavy-duty glue. Tape, beautiful decorations, wrapping paper, Bristol board, and shoe boxes. We're going to start with wrapping one of our boxes. So you need to lay out your paper. Put your box in the middle. Take one side, flip it over. A small piece of tape is all you need. This is so it won't flop around and it'll be sturdy for you to handle. Okay. Now you could do this. So you pull it down and you crease here. Like that. You're going to fold this corner down like this. Crease. Do the same here and crease. Flip it up and tape it down. If you think it's not neat, just add some tape. Let's do our next side. I'm going to show you a next trick I learned. You take a piece of tape, it don't have to be big, and tape here down so it don't flop around as I said. Flip it up. Tape it. So we don't want the seam to show, so flip it over, you have your wrapped box. Now let's move on to our next box. Following the same method, flip our paper over. Use the tape, small piece only because we don't want a big piece. When you tape it and you find it very loose here, just take the paper over here and pull it. Fold it up. Fold it up. And tape the top. Now press it down. Just tape the top so it don't move around. Take out a piece of tape. Pull this top. Flip it over, we have a second box. So I went ahead and covered my third box. Now what we want to do is glue them together so they don't budge. So just see where you want to put them, and put mine like this. Right. So let's take this box, flip it over to the messy side, fill it with glue, and stick it over. You don't need a lot of glue anyway, so press it down. Let's put glue on our last box. And glue that one down. So let's put this aside and wait for it to dry. So if you have short boxes, you can roll it like this, or take a toilet paper roll and paint it any color you want. Because I have big boxes, we're going to roll them like this. So you can use glue as well. Just you can put glue on this side and then glue it down. I'll wait like 2 minutes for it to dry. But I'm going to use tape. Put tape at one end, like this. Kind of almost sticking onto the table. Okay. Roll it over. Tape it down. You can tape down both ends first because it will be then easier to do the middle. Right. Ta-da! So let's take our square piece. So remember I told you we need a cap. So our cap is our circle. We need our marker and trace out the cap. Ta-da. And let's cut it out. Careful with the scissors. Let your parents supervise you so you don't cut your fingers. Almost done. Done. So this is going to be the roof of our tower. Because we don't want a flat roof, we're just gonna cut straight down the middle, not all the way, like this. Then, if it's not in the middle, right? You're gonna take one end and flap it over to make a cone, like this. So you can use glue or tape. If you don't want the tape to show, you take the tape, glue it at the bottom. Then you could glue the top. But I want my tape to show. Here. Press it down, and you got your roof. Okay, so I went ahead and made 3 more to go with my cylinders, and 3 more of my cones. I'm going to show you how to attach them. So you want to make like flaps, not too long and not too short. So just do that going around the whole castle. It doesn't matter if they're all the same length. Well, yeah, as long as they could fit in the cone. You know what I mean? Like this. Then you want to bend them out. So, gonna take our glue, put one on each corner. Well, flap, each flap. Take our cone, press it down, and hold it there for like 10 seconds. If it's not sticking, you can flip it over, push it down. Perfect. Now that I'm done with my columns, let's make our doors and windows. So I already cut out a door, but I'm going to show you how to make one. So I'm just going to trace out mine, and if you didn't make one already, I'll show you how to make one. A dome. A dome. Now let's make windows. If I don't have no windows, it won't have circulation, so make sure you get windows in there. 1 window, 2 windows. Careful with the scissors, don't cut your fingers off. You need those pretty little fingers to do art and craft. Door is done. Now let's do our windows. Cut it. Second window. Okay, on my window, I'm going to put a cross in it, so it looks like it have separate parts. On my window. Ta-da! Do that with my next window. And give my door a doorknob so you can get into the house. Okay, so we have our windows, our door, our boxes, our roof spout cylinders, and our cylinders. So we're going to put them together. Let's stick on our door. Press it down. Perfecto. Glue at the side and stick it where you wanna. Press it down. And wait for it to click on. It's okay if you press on the sides because it's already glued like that. It will just pop back out. So stick our next one. Right here will be nice. Push it down. And since we have one on top and I have the sides to glue on, just put glue at the bottom like this. It will run down, but don't worry, you can hide it with decoration. I'm just doing this to make like a layer and just glue down. Now let's wait for it to dry. Okay, that'll dry there. Now I'm going to stick the rest of mine. Welcome to Princess Rayanne's Palace. I'm here with Princess Dip and Sir Dunk. What would you name your mansion? I can't wait to see your creations. So don't forget to send your pictures and visit dairy-dairy.com. We have 5 more prizes, so make sure you send us your pics before the end of the week. Thanks so much for joining us at the Dairy Milky Magic Day Camp in the National Library, Port of Spain. I had a wonderful time and I hope you get a chance to visit a library near you to see all the wonderful books and stories they have. Keep reading, everyone. Bye!